Welcome to podcast episode 442. Today I have a very special guest. I'm very excited to have her on the show, Miss Tia Castle. She is the founder of CastleLux Properties, a property management company out of Sarasota. Did I say it right? Sarasota, Florida. Sarasota, Florida. Which is a very hot market. It shows up in all these top 5, top 10 places to invest in Airbnbs that have been going around recently. So I'm excited to hear, a little bit more about what's going on in that market. Why is it so popular? What's happening there? But you're focused on managing larger homes, like family-friendly homes, and you're a realtor as well. So excited to hear your story and pick your brain on what's going on and your success. You've also went through the Legends X program, of course, as well. So that was really awesome. You're working on you're participating in a book as well. So we'll touch on that. But yeah, Tia, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jasper. I'm so excited to be on your podcast. And I can't believe how many followers you have now. Your podcast is just blown up. It's amazing. So obviously you're doing something well that a lot of hosts and Airbnb company owners are really getting a lot out of. So thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to have you on. So let's start with your market. Like every time I see a top 5 or a top 10 most popular Airbnb markets or most popular short-term rental investment market, your market always pops up. Like what's going on over there?
Well, of course, Florida in general is popular, right? Sarasota is located on the west coast of Florida. And if you know a little bit about Florida, you have the bigger city of Tampa and St. Petersburg. So this is just about an hour south, and it's right on the Gulf of Mexico. And I think it pops up a lot because you have all these magazines like Traveler and Condé Nast, U.S. News and World Report that love to put Siesta Key Beach, which is one of our main beaches here in Sarasota, as one of the top 3 in the world and in the United States. And it keeps getting voted like that. So that's why it's kind of put on the map. And it doesn't hurt that MTV has done a television show here. So they ventured out of California, Los Angeles, and they have a show called Siesta Key. And it is about a bunch of really rich teenagers and their awful life on their yachts and, how they handle that and all the romance that goes on. And so that's been going, I think it's on its 4th year now. So it's this area has become really popular with help of TV as well. And plus the fact that it's, absolutely beautiful, and the sand looks like white powdery sugar sand, and it doesn't burn your feet when you walk on it. So.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Have you seen like over the last few years? I think this place has become like super popular. What have you noticed in terms of like the changes over the last few years?
Of this particular area?
Yeah.
Well, it has long been an attraction for tourists, but since Airbnb came along, it's just exploded. So, it's increased in numbers, the amount of short-term rentals and vacation rentals, even though 5 years ago you thought, oh, this is such a rental town, and we have such high seasonality where, during the winter, everybody flocks here. And you wouldn't think that there would be room for more, but there is, and it keeps on increasing, which is amazing. Being a realtor, I love seeing that. And just when you think that there's not enough room for more vacation rentals, they keep adding on.
So when I see a market pop up in those top 5 and top 10 lists, I always think by the time it hits the lists, it's probably not a good time anymore to invest, right? It's like the good time to invest in those markets is before it hits those lists and everybody finds out about it. But what's your view on that? Like, do you think it's still, like, when you look at the prices of the houses, and I'm sure they've gone up quite a bit,
Mhm.
and sort of the returns that you can make on Airbnb. Do you think it's still a good market for people to invest?
Yeah, I do. Especially if you're like, investing in, okay, there's an investing in two things. Or you're investing because number one, you see great cash flow, right? And then number two, because you're investing in the house and the appreciation and, taking off the taxes that you can if you have a rental. So the appreciation in this area continues to go up regardless. People still come to, visit here regardless. So let's talk about those lists for a second.
Sure.
Who is writing these lists, right?
Yeah.
It's by industry experts. And so every year we see these lists that come out and say, oh, you can get a great buy on this house and here's your cap rate. And so this is really good investability. And so everybody flocks to like that area and they look for places. And then, you think, oh, where should I invest this year? Because last year, Seaverville was like the top and I could get more for my money. And there's a new list. Well, so people are like changing from, areas they think we're good to invest in based on these lists. Well, I think that number one, these lists aren't all comprehensive. I mean, where does it come from, right? The industry that's trying to get you to use their information. So you've got to consider that. And then also, I think that as important as making sure that you are investing in a property that provides numbers as far as income goes, and also, stability in that market for, rising values. It's where do you want to be? Where do you want to visit? Where is it going to be fun for you to go and use your own rental? And where can you get to easily, right? I mean, if it's all over the world, you might have a hard time right now. So for me, I want to invest in something that I know that if I need to get there, say it's in another state, that I can do that within, a couple hour plane ride or drive. So that's what I think about as far as, where should I invest? I don't always think the lists are the best thing to follow, although I think it is a starting place and a good guide.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. That's why I was saying, like, when I see something on the list, I my first thought is like, okay, so that was a good place to invest in like a few years ago before those lists. But yeah, let's go back to your original story. Like, how did you get involved with Airbnb in the first place? Because you've been on Airbnb for like 6 years, right?
Right. Yep. I started like most people do. You see an opportunity or, you have a place that you need to rent because you're going to be gone for a little bit traveling. That's exactly how I started. My degree is in broadcast journalism, and I've always been involved in television production and journalism. And I was actually producing a show on real estate. So I had to be traveling across the state of Florida. I was going from Sarasota to Naples to Miami, and I was gone a lot. And I saw the opportunity because I heard about Airbnb because I was staying in them when I went to Miami. And I couldn't believe the return I was getting when I finally started doing it. And then I heard about this arbitrage thing. And I was like, oh, if I had a couple more condos like I have, I could support myself this way and I could still, do my work on my production company and my TV show. So it was totally out of necessity that I got into Airbnb. And then, I just, it proved itself and I just kept learning along the way. And now it's a full-time business for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I know you had about 15 units or so pre-COVID. Were those all master leases?
Actually, 7 of them were master leases. I got 5 at one time. I would never recommend that. But I happened to be driving around in the neighborhood downtown Sarasota, and I saw this apartment complex. It was an older one. They were redoing it, and I thought, what is that? I've never seen that before. It's right next to the hotel district. So I walked in and I happened to see the manager that was in there. I was just wandering around in the hallways because I was curious. And I said, well, what is this place? Are you going to be renting out these? And he explained to me that, new owner just bought it. And so, a light bulb went on and I was like, oh, I could get all of these at once on a master lease. There were actually 10 of them. And I thought, oh, no, that's way too much to bite off. Okay, I'm going to ask for 5. So I met with a new owner, told her that, she could hit the easy button and I would pay all the rents for half of her, building. And boom, I had 5 right away. So that was quite a feat to, get furniture for 5 different apartments all at one time, trying to launch them all at one time. But it was exciting too. And I had those for 2.5 years before COVID came along.
Yeah. And then did you struggle a lot during COVID, when COVID hit, with those leases?
Yes. So what happened was that when COVID hit, I had 4 months left on those leases and everybody canceled. I had like 0, goose eggs, reservations. And so I waited out for about 4 weeks to see what was going to happen, and still no reservations. And here I was owing I think it was like close to 10 grand a month and no reservations. So I took advantage of, ending that lease. So it just happened to be that, it was coming up. So that was kind of a lifesaver. But, in hindsight, I wish I would have known about being able to get government funding before then, because I really would have liked to have kept them because of all the work I put in them. However, if you ask me now, I don't think that I would start up new, apartments like that. I have rebranded and refocused.
Yeah. And why is that now something that you wouldn't recommend? Just because of the risk?
Yeah, well, there's a higher risk. You do have a lot of money that you need to put up front, and you are locked into, a lease basically. And so, I don't know, maybe I would take on 1, but not 5 at one time, and
yeah, possibly
build up. So I'm not totally adverse to, taking on risk. But yeah, it is a lot riskier, and I'm into a little bit more safety at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about your new model.
Yeah. So I have decided to just focus on larger family-friendly homes, and hence the name CastleLux. I want them to be more of a luxurious experience. And I think it's something that, someone needs to work up to as far as being in the luxury market. And my past television show, which is called Home and Castle TV, was focused on the luxury market as well. So I thought, that was my brand that I had started to build. And so why not continue with that brand with the Airbnbs or the short-term rentals? And so what I really enjoy is being more involved in the people who are coming. So when you have a bigger house and you are attracting families, so pretty much all of my houses that I am managing are 4 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms, 4 baths with a swimming pool. Swimming pool is a must. And it is partly a destination house. So it's not just a place where you're going to sleep and then be out, and about the rest of the time. It's where multi-generational families will come together and be able to, have grandma and grandpa, have the kids sit on their laps and jump in the pool and play with them, cook the hamburgers and hot dogs together and have the birthday party and, carry on those family traditions and just, make lasting memories that are going to be lots of pictures in their books for them to look back on. So that's the type of experience. And I really prefer, seeing that happen, and I get more joy out of that than I would someone spending a couple nights and leaving, and I have no clue, who they are. We need those too. But I really do like to be a little hands-on when it comes to who's staying. And being in real estate, I happen to find some investors that way.
And are you, do you have any master leases currently, or are you now only managing homes for other people?
Yeah, I do not have any master leases. I'm only managing homes, and
Yeah.
those specific homes. Yeah, the larger luxury homes.
What, and I think a lot of people have switched from master leases to management in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And for people that have been listening to the podcast for a while, they know that Eric and I have kind of been promoting more of the management model also in Legends X. That's really what we focus on, for the exact reason that you mentioned, because we just feel like there's just so much risk in the master lease model. Mm-hmm. What are for someone who's switched from master lease model to management model? What mm-hmm. were the biggest adjustments that you had to make in your business?
Actually, it made my life easier. So it's not like I had a combination of management and master leases. So I would say as far as adjustments go, I would say it gave me a bit more time back and a lot less stress. And it just allows me a little bit more time to, focus on one thing. I feel like, as many of the students that come into Legends X, where they start, and you're all about, getting the hectic host back into a lane where, they feel like they're not hectic anymore. I think that switch is something that helped quite a bit. And when you spread yourself way too thin, doing all sorts of types of rentals, like maybe 2-bedroom condos or a studio here, and then a large house there, and then, a boat there. It just doesn't allow you to really focus and accomplish and do well in a certain area. So, I kind of got off on a tangent with your question there, but there wasn't really much of a business change that I had to do besides selling a ton of furniture. And it just made my life easier.
Yeah. And that's something that we put a lot of emphasis on in Legends X program, is everybody to like you said, really choosing your lane and choosing mm-hmm. like who's your guest avatar, what type of properties do you want to rent out, and what kind of owners do you want to work with. Now, one thing that is a big difference between master leasing and managing is that you're now dealing with owners, right? When you're master leasing, is just you just pay the rent and that's it. But when you're dealing with owners, like sometimes those can be hard to work with. Mm-hmm. How's that experience for you?
Okay, so you've got a couple of different types of owners, or a few types of owners. One of my owners happens to be my family. My brother bought a really nice vacation rental. So and his wife. So you've got like their mom and pop owner. They like to spend a lot of time in their rental. And then you've got, I would say, an investor, somebody who doesn't really worry about the home because they're too involved in their other bigger businesses, and they just want somebody to take care of everything for them. So, and then you have something in between those two. So you go from people who are really, really involved in the nitty-gritty detail to people who say, look, do not call me about anything. Here's the information to all of my accounts. You get in there and you do your thing. So, you have to understand how to, have another customer. So you've got your customers that are staying in your rentals, and then you've got your customers that you are, taking care of their homes and their equity and helping them build a business. And it is a large responsibility, which needs to be taken seriously. So, you asked about the adjustment. That's something I should have said was, yes, you've got other people to answer to now. So that is something that, you have to think about as far as your customer base.
Yeah. And what do you have some tips on, like, for people that are listening and are thinking maybe doing the same, like maybe they have some master leases and they're thinking about shifting to management, like what kind of advice do you have for managing those relationships with the owners?
Well, as you build and if you're going to scale, you have to understand what you can do as the owner and what you need to, delegate. And so I think that, you shift from overseeing the cleaning to the maintenance to the booking. You need to shift that responsibility to someone else, whether it's a VA or an assistant or whatever it is. And I think that you need to take on the responsibility of making sure that, your customers, the homeowners, the people who are providing you with the inventory, they need to have a lot of attention. And until you understand how to work that, can you shift off some of the responsibility to that? But, it is, you're servicing them. So, the thing you need to do is, one thing that I've had to do is make sure that I have great owner reports. Make sure that from the get-go, when you are providing them with the information and trying to get them in as a new customer, you explain all the details. You have to know what you're going to offer. You have to have it written down on paper so that you can refer to it in the future, because people are going to forget what you said. You're going to get things up, and you never want to miscommunicate. So I think one of the most important things, and something that I put on my website, is we are really, really focused on communicating with the owners correctly and timely and on a consistent basis. Whether it's someone who's not involved to someone who's very involved. Someone who's not involved still wants to see those reports. They want to know what's happening. And so I would have to say that you have to make sure that you have those systems of clear communication so that they know what to expect. Don't expect that they know, how this works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that, you really have to continue to focus on.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Setting clear expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what you said. Like they don't know much about short-term rentals, right? So we have to assume that they know nothing and just explain very clearly, like what we're going to do, how we're working with them, what they can expect, what we're kind of, reports are we going to give them, what they are responsible for, and what you are responsible for as the manager, right? Because that's sometimes there's a bit of a gray area there where, we see hosts like basically becoming like a maintenance service provider for owners.
Right. I was just going to say that is one of the top gray areas is, what you're going to do for their home as far as maintenance. And, and there's different laws in different states in regards to if you are a property manager, actually in the state of Florida, you don't have to have a license for it, but you have to have, actually, I take that back. You do have to have a license as a property manager. Mostly it's for reservations that are 30 days and over. But that is somewhat regulated by law. And so, as a short-term rental specialist, you're not really a property manager. And so that's something that I have to really distinguish early on in the beginning. And I let them know that, hey, this is something that is a separate category, and I list, what is under that category. We don't maintain your house's electrical system or your plumbing or, your air conditioning. That's really big here in Florida because they go all the time. So you really have to delineate that. And that goes along with, making sure you have that clear communication and have it written down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. I remember talking to a student once who was painting a fence. I think he was either fixing or painting a fence for one of the owners. I thought that was an interesting example of that, where you kind of go a little bit too far with your services.
Yeah. And if he's painting the fence, how is he going to get new customers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's always, I always feel that's the best way to communicate to owners who are trying to get you to do more stuff, is just say like, hey, I have a question for you. Do you want to make as much money as possible? And then if the answer is yes, then you gotta let me do my job. Let's get you guests, and manage your pricing. And if you're gonna distract me with all sorts of other stuff, that means you're gonna get less money at the end of the month. So
good one. That's awesome advice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to remember that one. Love that.
Awesome. Before we disconnect, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you're participating in a book project. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. It's actually through people that I met on Legends X. So great networking with your program. I mean, I've met so many really cool people. And so this is a Airbnb host out of England, is gathering a few people who have been in the business for a while and have wonderful stories to tell, because a lot of people do want to get into the business, right? But they just don't understand what that entails. And so this book is about not only about technical things, but it's about how this business affects your life. And it will come across and let people know, because we've got several different hosts from all around the world that are going to be writing a chapter and telling their personal story. So it's about how they got into it, how it's changed their lives, and how it's made a difference, and basically what you might see getting into this business from someone who's looking from the outside, saying, okay, is this going to be right for me? So the stories are going to be wonderful. I've already heard a couple of them, and part of my story is about how I wasn't really hospitable in the beginning. And I have learned to be, and I have learned to really enjoy it. Before it was all about business for me, and it's turned into something else, and I'm not going to give it all away, but it has really affected me in an extremely positive way. So you can see some transformations.
Awesome. When's the book coming out?
Launching it on Amazon all around the world, probably not until this summer.
This summer. All right, cool. Awesome. Yeah, we'll keep following the progress, because I know there's a few Legends X students who are in the book actually, and so is Julie, our head coach. She's in the book as well, so we'll definitely let everybody know when it comes out, so they can get their copy. Awesome. So just to wrap this up, if people are listening and they might be interested in visiting your family homes, or if somebody wants to maybe invest in this market, like how can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, which is CastleLuxRentals.com. It's spelled Castle with the LUX rentals.com. Or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. On Facebook, if you want more information about what's going on in the Sarasota area in particular, I am the president of the Sarasota Short-Term Rental Association, and you can look that up on Facebook. It's a page at SSRA, or I've got my phone number all over everything, or my real estate website, which is tiacastle.preferredshore.com.
Awesome. Sweet.
Stores, I got to talk about that. So yes, so it's wonderful because I am helping investors who are buying their second home or just want to invest in a vacation rental property. And so I'm helping them find the right property because there's so many rules and regulations to maneuver around if you're not from this area. Even if you're from this area, a lot of real estate agents don't understand how that works. So that's why I am focusing on just that. I don't really spread myself thin with other real estate issues, but I'm helping people who want to purchase a vacation rental to find the right one for them.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you're interested in investing in Sarasota, then make sure to contact Tia, because she's the expert. She went through Legends X, so she's obviously an incredible host and an incredible manager. So Tia, thank you so much for joining the show. This was really cool. And one last thing is, just before we started speaking, I learned that you actually speak Thai, which is really awesome.
Yes. Yeah, wasn't that cool? And that you have an Airbnb in Thailand, which I want to visit one day.
That's right. That's right. So we'll wrap up this podcast with a little bit of Thai. So I want to thank you. So I say Kop Kun Kap.
Yes, and I say Mai Pen Lai Pa, which means kind of means a few things, but it's you're welcome, no problem. And Kap Kun Ma, which means thank you very much. And
one thing that I think is really interesting about the Thai language is that there's a difference in how you say a sentence when you're a male versus a female, right? So because I'm a male, I have to put kap at the end of every sentence, and it's a form of politeness, right?
It is, yeah. So you put kap, and then the ladies put ka, and also it's very much of an intonation. You can't just say ka.
Right.
Say,
yeah. Awesome. Sweet. I love that. All right, Tia, thank you so much. And to the listeners, thank you for listening. And of course, Friday, we'll be back with another podcast. Me and Eric will be your host on Friday. So make sure to tune in, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. If you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be amazing. We've been getting a lot of reviews recently, and I can see the audience is growing. The amount of people that are downloading the podcast is now almost at 30,000 a month, which is absolutely incredible. So yeah, super grateful for people who have been leaving those reviews on Apple Review. You can also follow us on Spotify if you want to listen on Spotify. That we're on Spotify as well. So yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks Tia, and until next time.
Thank you so much, Jasper.